Now, this week, Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry Chief Paul Guerra said while his organisation was yet to develop a formal policy on the COVID vaccine, he supported the concept of compulsory vaccinations for roles that pose a high risk. Paul Guerra joins us now. Paul, please tell us, which workers do you think should have a mandatory vaccine program in place?
Good evening, Rita. Look, let's wind it back a little bit. I think the first rollout of vaccine needs to go to those in the community that are at risk, be it the elderly or those with underlying health conditions. After we get enough supply from there, that's when we think we can start to look at workers who are at risk. And you think emergency service workers, healthcare workers, those industries that have no choice but to engage with the general public, we think it's right for them to be kept safe. The question around whether it's mandatory or not, I think that's for another day, because we need to see how many doses of vaccine we're going to get over a particular period of time.
Well, outside of those working in health or aged and disability care sectors, I mean, a lot of those workers already are required to have mandatory flu vaccines. So for them, it's not going to be too difficult to what they already have in place. But what other sectors should be up next? Or do you believe there are any other sectors where it should be a compulsory program?
No, we probably err on, and we're taking a member survey at the moment, so we'll have more to say at the end of this week on that. But we'd probably err on put the responsibility back on the individual. But there's a bit to play out here because, first of all, Australia is virus-free and Victoria is virus-free aside from those who are in quarantine. So if we do the right thing there, we won't have the virus here. However, if you want to travel, particularly internationally, you'll probably have to have the vaccine to be able to do that. So we want to make sure that there's enough supply available for people who actually choose to have the vaccine, that they can do that.
And do you foresee that once this vaccine is rolled out and people are taking it up, that we will return to normal, not a new normal, but normal, with our borders coming down and people are allowed to travel and workers coming in? There's a lot of businesses already struggling because they can't bring in workers they need.
Yeah, that's really true, Rita, and that's probably the golden ticket that we're looking at now. Once the vaccine's widely available, then there's probably no reason why we can't start to open up the international borders again, provided those coming in have observed either the quarantine or the vaccine, preferably the vaccine, and probably both, if we're honest. We are seeing shortages, and particularly from the university sector, that haven't been able to get the international students back into our country. And of course, right now, Australia, Victoria, is the best place in the world to be. So, there's a lot of people wanting to come here to enjoy what we've got. And, the tourism sector would certainly enjoy a boost from international guests arriving as well.
Absolutely. And just lastly, are you having to convince any of your membership or anybody that this vaccine is safe? I know there's a lot of people out there who are not anti-vaxxers but are just concerned about the speed with which this vaccine was developed, and the ones who don't particularly fear COVID themselves are not enthusiastic about it. Have you faced that kind of opposition at all?
Not yet, but we're really lucky here. As I said before, we have no virus at free in Australia right now, which is perfect. Any virus is in the quarantine. What we'd say, though, is that Australia have a brilliant health regulator, and the TGA hasn't let us down yet. They've been very conservative in what they've done, and we expect them to do the right thing by all Australians again. We have no reason to doubt that when the TGA approves the vaccine, that it will be safe for every Australian to use.
Fantastic. Paul Guerra, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Pleasure, Rita.